Live action remakes of popular, beloved animated films. This is nothing new. In fact, this hasn't been something new to the world in over 2 decades.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa!
That's too damn bad!
Of course, this all depends on how you define a live-action remake or adaptation, but you could track this fascination with the live-action trend all the way back to 1980 with Popeye, a movie that I think most people would agree is at the bare minimum kind of weird. But for the sake of this video, Disney's live-action remake of 101 Dalmatians, which was released in 1996, we could consider patient zero in the live-action remake epidemic that we are currently living in. It was incredibly popular, it was very profitable, it spawned a sequel that was also popular and profitable, and yet there was a slight delay in the live-action fever. But that fever would bare its teeth again in the 2010s with Alice in Wonderland, Cinderella, and then of course The Jungle Book in 2016. And it's this moment in 2016, specifically I would say with The Jungle Book, where the movement of the live-action remake has truly began. Disney is seeing immense returns, and blinded by the dollar signs, they essentially greenlight their entire catalog. And since that fateful moment in 2016, Disney has unleashed close to 15 live-action remakes or spin-offs onto the world. 15. It's like a live-action remake butterfly effect. Disney flapped its wings back in 1996, and here we are today, the first in what I imagine to be a very long line of live-action remakes over at Dreamworks with How to Train Your Dragon. I'm essentially going to split this video into 2 halves. The first half will be the actual review of the movie, and the second half will be a more philosophical discussion about what this movie means for the future. Fortunately, I don't think I have to worry about spoilers. This is essentially a shot-for-shot remake of the original from 2010, except that this version is weirdly 25 minutes longer. But there are no story changes from this version to the original. But I guess if you haven't seen the original, then here's your spoiler warning for a movie that came out 15 years ago. Let's start off by being a positive Paul. This movie is able to replicate, to a degree, the same magic that can be found in the original. From the tension between Hiccup and Toothless' first encounter, to the emotional highs of that first test drive, to the strained but loving relationship between Hiccup and Stoic. All of it is there. Some of it still compelling. Is that actually surprising though? I mean, this is as close as a shot-for-shot remake of an original as we're ever going to get. So those emotions are expected. The music is the same as it was in 2010. It's still incredible. It still puts that lump in your throat during the more meaningful moments. But let's not beat around the bush. This version of How to Train Your Dragon is doing nothing better or more interesting than its animated original. The story and the themes remain profound, but it's just told in a much uglier way. Like, visually speaking, it's just an uglier movie. Bringing the Isle of Brooke to life obviously came with a lot of challenges. Some that this movie, I think, accomplishes and exceeds. Other challenges that they fall just shy of. The CGI of the dragons, I think, look incredible. They actually achieve a level of expressiveness that's been rare on the Disney live-action side of things, especially with the animals over there. I'll never forget in 2019 when Lion King came out, and the stampede happens, the very emotional stampede that leads to Mufasa's death. Sorry, I guess spoiler warning. But the shot of Simba and his shocked face in live action, terrible. Luckily for How to Train Your Dragon, there are no egregious moments like that. All of the dragons, I would say, are expressive, are animated. You can tell how they're feeling by looking at their face. Obviously, the dragon that matters is Toothless, but I'm happy to say he's still that dopey, charming dragon we all know and love. And I would say overall the movie does a great job capturing not just the scale of the dragons, but all of their unique individual personalities. Where the live action fails compared to its animated original is not so much in the design or look of the dragons, but it's in the specific motions and movements of the dragons. Anytime a person in this movie is on a dragon, the CGI can look a little strained, but more annoyingly, it's edited in a way that becomes very hard to focus on what's happening. There's constant cuts that prevent moments like the first test flight from reaching those same emotional highs. But that's just the sad reality of live action films. There's just less of an ability to do those really fun, long, static shots, the ones that we see in the animated original. The other area that live action tends to fall short of is in the depiction of Berk itself. Live action, typically has a tough time replicating and mimicking the vibrancy of animation, and that is definitely present in this movie. Although I will say there are some on-location shots and some handmade sets that were clearly made with a lot of passion, and those look really great. Basically, the normal sins we see live-action remakes commit all the time, they're here, they're just not at distractingly bad levels. And I guess that was a really long way of saying this movie nails the story, which, how could you not, but looks so much worse. Performance-wise is an interesting conversation. I think Mason Thames is a very talented young actor. I thought he was great in The Black Phone, and it's safe to say he had a very tall task ahead of him for this movie. I'm hesitant to say that he does poorly as Hiccup because I don't think that's the case. I'm sure many people would agree he looks like a Hiccup, but that's the inherent problem with live-action adaptations and remakes. Getting an actor that looks like the character is not enough, but it's treated like it is enough. There's a stiffness to the character, which actually I think is a major problem for the entire cast, with one exception being Gerard Butler as Stoic. In the original, Hiccup is clumsy. He's always falling and tripping, and the animation really emphasizes his awkwardness. But what really makes Hiccup shine in the animated version, I think, is Jay Baruchel's voice work.
We're dead.
He has this whimsy in his voice, this mixture of hope and awe and uncertainty, and Mason Thames does a decent job with this, but is so much less expressive. And truly, I think it's an issue for every character to varying degrees. Nico Parker, great actress, but she lacks the ferocity. Julian Dennison, who is typically the funniest guy in the room, plays a much more quiet and restrained Fishlegs. And the only performance that feels like it's doing more with the character in the live-action medium is Gerard Butler as Stoic. Is that because he played Stoic in the original? I don't know, possibly, but he's doing an excellent job bringing that character to life. What else should I mention? Oh, the movie is, as I said before, 25 minutes longer. Where that's at, I have no idea. I can't think of a specific scene or moment they add that would cause the runtime to go up 25 minutes. Maybe there's more shots of dragons flying or Vikings hanging out. I don't know. What you should take away from that is the pacing in this movie is never an issue. That might be it. I mean, what else can I say about a story that's literally already been told before? The themes of community and tolerance and listening to one another were powerful in 2010. They're powerful now. Toothless and Hiccup's relationship, still beautiful. The ending, still compelling. In a vacuum, this movie's excellent. I mean, we don't live in a vacuum, but considering all of the nonsense that comes out geared towards family and children, I was just on this channel a couple months ago complaining about the Minecraft movie. So it's exciting to me that we have this movie geared towards families that at least has a semblance of a heart. So, will fans love this? Absolutely. Should fans love this? Now that is the real question. As the credits began to roll for How to Train Your Dragon, several thoughts crossed my mind. The first thought was, wow, well, that could have been a lot worse. I'm really glad I wasn't. The second thought that crossed my mind was, wow, I'm really hungry. Where's the nearest In-N-Out? Seriously though, that always crosses my mind. And the third thought, and the one I really want to unpack, is, so what exactly is the point here? What are we doing here? Why are we retelling this story in this medium? Big questions that we may not even be able to answer in this video or ever, but questions I want to leave with people so they can interrogate themselves. I'll ask another question on top of my other questions, but this one I will attempt to answer. Is the bar for live action remakes so low, so in the ground, that in order to be considered a good live action remake, you have to be shot for shot exactly the same as the original? Where is the innovation? Where is the creativity? Where is the soul? Is DreamWorks' decision to make a faithful live action remake out of respect for the story, or is it out of fear of the audience reaction if they don't? This is where I find myself torn. And look, granted, Disney has made some stinker live action remakes. No one is arguing that they haven't. However, consider this. Is it more admirable that they have at least tried something new within this medium as opposed to making the exact same thing but look worse? Because a part of me at least somewhat admires that Disney has tried to tell these stories differently. I mean, I don't think the story changes and decisions recently have been very good. Cough, cough, Lilo and Stitch, cough, cough. However, is the mere attempt to innovate better than no attempt at all? That's where I feel stuck. Because I look at this version of How to Train Your Dragon and I wonder, why are people so excited to see the same story but worse? What is it about nostalgia that clearly has people in this chokehold? Because I look at Dreamworks and I don't see a studio that clearly respects its story. I see a studio that has noticed the failings of a competitor and has chosen the safest path to ensure the most money. Maybe that's cynical of me. Possibly. Actually, it probably is. But what's next? Are people itching to see How to Train Your Dragon 2 and 3 shot for shot the exact same thing? And if so, I genuinely want to know why. I've said this before somewhere, but my biggest issue with live action remakes and adaptation and this trend is that it continues to perpetuate this idea that animation is somehow a lesser form of art or a lesser form of filmmaking. This idea that animation is for children and live action is for everyone else. And I fear that this movie's relentless commitment to being a faithful adaptation will only perpetuate this idea even further. The inevitable success of this movie will undoubtedly lead to a sequel, to more Dreamworks stories being adapted into live action, and further plunge us into what I think will be a very bleak state for the art. And this is why the movie is a little bit scary to me. This movie will probably do well, maybe $1 billion, and possibly inspire studios to do the exact same thing. There is a cruel irony behind all of this, where people are screaming at the top of their lungs for more original stories, but then show up in droves for a movie that is proudly boasting they're doing nothing creative. And like how I thought The Jungle Book was a major turning point for movies back in 2016, this movie, I think, is a major turning point for movies now. Like in 10 years, when we have 7 more live action adaptations from different studios across the board, we can look back at this moment as the moment that might have changed it all. Or maybe not. Maybe I am going to be completely off and predictions are totally wrong, but enough doom or gloom. Movie is out. People are going to watch it. I don't blame anybody for going out to go see this. I just want people to be talking about these things. That's all I can really ask for. If you saw the movie, drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. Be respectful, of course. Next time you see my face on this channel, I don't exactly know what it'll be for. I'm still working on watching every video game adaptation ever. I think I have like 6 more. That's not that many. It'll be totally worth all of your time because it was totally worth all my time. But also, probably 28 years later, I think that's the next big movie to come out. That will be a really fun discussion and conversation. I'm a huge fan of both movies, actually. So look forward to that. Okay, but this is the end for reals. I appreciate everyone watching and giving me all that feedback. Leave a like, a subscribe, and have a wonderful day, night, weekend. I'll see you guys next time.